This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, and today I'm going to talk about the culture of entitlement and impunity. Yesterday, I talked about a culture of division as a culture of war, because that's what it is. If our mindset is reading in the world, reading our relations as based on division of labor, division of status, division of with a certain attached value, then that is associated with status, economic, social status. We have a culture, obviously, of entitlement and impunity, which, and this is of course not a problem of or not a behavior or not a feature of the higher classes. This is transversal. This is across all classes, all social classes, because and that's why this is a problem even between the people at the bottom of the hierarchy. They don't, instead of perceiving themselves as equals, they are always looking for what divides them. We are always look about what divides us in order to feel entitled. Not exactly for, we are not talking about impunity, but what makes us feel entitled or feeling better about ourselves in the social ranking. We have this mentality that we at least are not as bad or not doing as bad as the next neighbor, and this competition, this mindset, this interpretation of the world, of reality, of our social reality, is based on a culture of division and obviously a culture of war, as I tried to explain yesterday. And this is another layer of problems when we do not have a culture of wholeness, a culture of unity, of understanding that we all share, we have common needs, and when we don't, what we need to, and self-respect and dignity is not something that are more, my self-respect and my dignity is not more important than the dignity and self-respect of other people. And our relations, our social relations and economic relations need to reflect it, which means that we need to have a legal system that reflects it. Otherwise, that's for sure that we are going to have a culture of impunity. And not only a culture of impunity, it's a culture of an immoral culture. A culture that is always using morality, using moral and ethics to justify entitlement and impunity. Not exactly to do what it should do, that it should prevent it to become reality. And unless we the people, we the many, understand it and transform it into And we go through a process of conscious transformation to a culture of wholeness, a culture of cooperation, a culture that reinforces empathy and compassion and reciprocity. We are going to never be able to understand, to see, to envision a different society and a different civilization, because we are always going to try to fix the problems without fixing the system, without changing the system. I mean, and this is why we always go back. We believe that we go back to the same forms of exploitation and entitlement. In this case, in societies, that we start to have bureaucratic and technocratic entitlement to use and abuse the people of the bottom of the hierarchy, of the social hierarchy, even when we believe that we are trying to implement a classless system, a communist or socialist system, for example. But we still not have because we do not change. That's why it's not, when we talk about religion, and religion is the opium of the people. And of course it is, because religion is not about spirituality, spiritual development. It's about social control, and people should understand it. But since it's not the case, because of the cultural narratives, the cultural dominant narratives that are behind that support how we behave, of course, and how we understand and perceive the world and perceive ourselves and our social relations. We cannot just by law. That's the problem, that people think, the people that believe they can change reality through law. It is possible to change to a certain reality, because if you make a law that people have to pay fines for certain behaviors, that will decrease those behaviors, that's for sure. But it doesn't change the reality of this. It just doesn't change the core of the system. It's just about controlling and trying to punish certain behaviors. It's about punishing behaviors or rewarding behaviors, not exactly changing the structure of the system. And that's why people do not stop believing what they believe, because of that by law we prohibit religion, or we prohibit certain practices, and people start practicing it in hidden ways to avoid being punished. But they don't stop believing, because in order to stop believing, you need to have a profound process of other narratives, other ideas become dominant. That not necessarily, as I always say, that we don't get rid of the old ideas. They just are not dominant anymore. And that's why we do not change. That people even eventually might resist change, because change needs to be conscious, a conscious process, that we understand that we are that what we are doing is meaningful and has a purpose. If it's only by imposition, it's going to be it's not going to work. That is why cognitive dissonance is a thing, because we cannot match what is thoughts and feelings, because we can rationalize everything, you can justify everything, because we can frame it in a way that it looks all right and logical and ethical and everything else, but our actions don't match. So we know there is that's the practical world, the world of our jobs and our interests and our businesses, and the world of exploitation and plunder, and inequality and unfairness and justice and the lack of justice and the lack of trust and lies. But we somehow try to conciliate a world of righteousness, a world that we believe we are moral beings and we want to do good, but we live in this world and this reality, and therefore we need to, our behavior and what we expect from others, that is the culture of division. We feel entitled, and we believe that we have privileges, and we stratify them, and we just believe that we are being moral beings by doing that, but we are not. We just live in this cognitive dissonance mode that allows us to be sometimes to be crooks and to be philanthropes at the same time, to feel entitled to what we should not. If we are real moral beings, we would not feel entitled to so many things that we feel entitled to, even expecting other people to serve us and do, because we have the money to pay. So that's why we need to live in this schizophrenic mode in order to cope with this reality. And that's why only a conscious transformative cultural process that is of course a personal and collective transformative process will make us become a unity, will make us transparent, will make us part of a culture of wholeness, not a culture of division or a culture of war, where our relations are based in our power relations, not relations for mutual well-being and collective well-being, and that's how that's why we have this dysfunctional way of relating to each other, and we accept this as normal and natural and part of the human condition, as if we could not do better, and use culture and not use culture, but to implement a culture that rewards it, because that's how I see it, and I have talked about that before, that we need to have an economy, a political system, an economic system, and a cultural system that really has the purpose of enhancing this culture of unity, this culture of wholeness, not a culture of division, because a culture of division is for sure a culture of war, a culture of conflict, a culture of dysfunctional relations. That we just then try, as I said, we compensate it with cognitive dissonance. And most of the time we don't discuss it. Because we have so many taboos and dogmas about our own condition, about what it means to be a human being, and that we are not able to go beyond certain paradigms and understand humanity in a totally different way. Because we understand ourselves through culture. We don't understand ourselves just because we are smart. That's culture that gives meaning and shapes how we understand ourselves. And if you have a culture of division, because it was a culture that was hijacked by sociopaths and psychopaths, opportunists, and with big ideas, and the big ideas is about conquering, it's about plundering, it's about controlling everything. It's not about the collective good. It's not about building functional relationship for mutual well-being. Any culture that exists or has ever existed, it helps us. It has a social function, which is to allow us to create an identity, to share a common identity, because we share the same language system that we developed together. So we have a belief system, and that culture unites, gives it identity and unites the people, and provides the tools that allow people to enhance their survival possibilities. But culture is also about limits, because culture, the narratives will create limits to our understanding of the world, because it frames the world in a specific way that limits that we come trapped in that culture, that at the same time is important to us in so many ways, but it also limits the way we understand ourselves and the world and our relations. So that's why culture is not about freedom or liberty. It really creates, it traps us to a certain extent. Culture traps us and doesn't allow, and it's why we can believe that even a culture that is dysfunctional, deeply dysfunctional, we can believe it that is a good culture, and actually it is not a good culture, and it's based on it serves to support for example, an economic and social, economic, political, and social system that is dysfunctional, exploitative, and is basically a culture of division and a culture of conflict and war. But we don't see it because we are born and grow, and we are educated and instrumentalized through that culture. So that's why culture does. Even high culture and highly educated people, and very smart people, they do not understand. Many do not understand how culture frames, or they don't understand, or they don't care. For as long as it serves their purpose, their careers, their social status, their professional status, their economic status. That's why sometimes it is it's not even about not being aware of it. It's about how we are trapped in interests, in individual and private and corporate interests, and that of course is not a good thing. It is a culture of division and a culture of conflict, and that's our reality. And unless we can overcome and overrule and overthrow kind of this dominant paradigm, which, because this culture has been transformed into the global dominant narrative and civilization that supports the imperialist civilization, we do need to I mean, it's important to understand that either we overcome it or we'll be trapped on this paradigm forever until we destroy life itself and we destroy humanity itself, and or eventually we blow up the planet. Who knows? That's where we are as a species, and we might not even be able to see through it, to think outside the box, literally outside the box. We don't even try to go beyond sophistic arguments, because truth doesn't matter. What matters, as the old sophistic school, what was important for them, it was to win the discussion. So winning the discussion is more important than clarifying the issue, than making sure that we end up getting a better understanding of the reality. and that of course it has consequences, and the consequences is the deep division that is almost impossible to have relations based in really. I mean, this is nothing to do with friendship. This has to do with cooperation and truth, justice, and trust. Because friendship can be many things, and relations based not on the will of getting things clear and as close to the truth as possible, it's exactly the opposite of a culture of division, a culture that is supposed who is going to win the discussion. That's not important. What is important is can we get closer to the truth? Can we understand? Can we clarify our disagreements? What's important? But no, our culture, our dominant culture of division, trains us to fight, to use arguments to try to win the discussion, instead of using arguments to get closer to the truth, because that it's not about who is wrong, but about to both sides becoming closer through truth, through understanding what is at stake. the point I try to make is if people try to start thinking about how dysfunctional we become, not how dysfunctional, not only how dysfunctional our culture and social, economic, and political system is, but how dysfunctional we become, how dysfunctional our relations become, because we are not even able to talk in order to. We are so self-centered in a bad way, not to develop ourselves, not to have a transformative, a process of conscious transformation for a culture of wholeness. But it's basically self-centered to win the discussion, to be focused on self-interest, which means also winning the discussion. And that's, of course, it's a very bad it's a very bad system that we should deal with. But we don't, because this is our daily reality. This system of top-down commands, of trying to dominate others, it is really part of our daily lives. This is just please forget about democracy and freedom and all this rubbish. At the deep level, it's only about domination. It's about control. It's about winning. It's about power. And that's not at all, that's not only at the upper strata of society. It's across all society, across all classes and castes of society. And that is why we have our biggest problem is that we support, we keep this culture of division going on because we don't understand how it works against us, the many, the people. So therefore we keep it going on. We keep throwing gasoline to the fire. and that is of course doesn't allow us to understand how deep we are manipulated. That's exactly and it's the same way to have to build a culture of wholeness, a culture, a conscious transformative culture. We need to understand how dysfunctional, how destructive is the culture of division, conflict, and war that exists, that is alive within us as the dominant culture, which means that we always look up to see the elites, how they exploit us, how they control society, how they want to grab all the wealth and concentrate all the power. And we do understand it, but sometimes we are not able to understand how that culture is pervasive across all society. And it's alive within us, in our subconscious minds. And it affects the way we relate to each other at a much deeper level than most of us understand, or at least give that we even dare or bother to analyze. And that's my invitation, is that people start to do it, try to become interesting in understanding the deep roots of our exploitative and destructive system, because actually those deep roots, we can find them within ourselves, not because they are part of our condition, but they are surely part of this culture of division, conflict and war that is the dominant culture across everywhere in the world. This is not only a problem of Western civilization, this is a problem that is part of the imperialist civilization and is a global problem. And we cannot have an ecological civilization unless we do deal with the roots of the problem. And instead of believing that we can techno-fix everything, and because that's and we can keep this system forever, which is going to be a problem that we might not be able to solve, and through technology, through this mentality that, that's these new religions, these are the dominant religions, the religions that technofixism, technoscientism, technocracy, transhumanism. These are supposed to be the path to freedom and to maybe happiness, instead of but what we are doing actually is deepening a culture of division, a culture of domination, a culture of control, and a culture of destruction, a dystopian, the post-humanist. We are trying to build a post-human, not post-humanist to post-human civilization, a transhumanist civilization, because we are not anymore good to, because we need to be updated to meet the needs of the fourth industrial revolution. And we can talk a lot about saving, about who are the people, the bad people, and this and that. That is important, for sure. That is important to talk about the ones, to debunk them, to show to the world who they are and how they operate. That is important. I do believe it. But it is also important to go to the deep roots, to understand the deep roots that are within us, that are part of us. They live within us, in our subconscious mind, and they shape who we are. They shape how we understand ourselves, how do we build our relations, how do we build our relations with other human beings, but with nature too, with other living beings, and with nature as a whole, and even with the cosmos, because it doesn't matter how nicely we talk, what kind of movements we build, what even kind of political parties do we create. The point is that if we do not understand where the problem comes from, what is the origin of the problem, we won't solve it, because we are missing. We just miss it. We just miss the target, and and I believe that's why it's not enough to have a Marxist or socialist diagnosis of the political problems, which I want to emphasize that it is important. We cannot understand reality if we don't understand class warfare. That is for sure. That's to me that's more than obvious. But we need to understand how it happens within ourselves, and how can we together just change these conditions, the cultural tools and the intellectual tools, to be able to use a different approach, different lenses for a different culture, for a different understanding of reality, of economics, of politics, because we really need it. The system we have is destructive and dysfunctional at all levels. It starts with the relations, the social relations at the bottom. That's why it matters a lot. That's why we cannot build any meaningful movement or lasting movement, because we are captured by the culture of division, the culture of conflict, not the culture of wholeness and unity, and the understanding of the collective well-being. So that is, a lot can be said about these points, but this is just kind of what I try is to look at it from different angles, and that's I always see everything, or I try to think about everything as a process and as a complex system analysis. That's because I also believe that if we are not able to do it, we are going to not be able to understand the problems and life and reality in an holistic way. And I do believe that, as I said before, we need to get to the point where we do understand that it's not culture versus nature, it's culture in the web of nature. And this is part of an holistic understanding, approach, vision, lens of ourselves as a species and as individuals in the wider and our relational, because everything is relational. That's why everything is a process. It's not about a collection of things or a collection of events. It's a process that occurs through living organisms, and that is important to allow us to understand reality as it really is, not as we imagine it or according to our beliefs. Okay, that is all for today. Thanks for listening. I will be back soon. And as you know, this is a subject that requires, as I said, it is a process. I'm not lecturing anybody. I just would like that we would be able to not be dehumanized as we are being. That's what is happening with us for already a long time, and it doesn't matter how sophisticated our cultures are, how advanced we are. The dominant culture of division, conflict and war in the end dehumanizes us, because it just even makes us think that we are not, that it denies us the social, that we are a social species. It destroys the ability to have a deep connection between us, relations that really connect us, and also that connect us with nature and the other living organisms. But that's not what the cultural division promotes. It's just the opposite, and that's why it dehumanizes us in spite of all sophistication and that we believe we have. And remember, we don't stand in the shoulders of giants. We stand in the shoulders of the common citizens, and the shoulders of nature, in the shoulders of everything that exists. And our culture of domination requires obedience, blind obedience, voluntary submission, and that's unacceptable, and that dehumanizes us. So I will end it now. I will be back soon.